Hello everybody, this is General Yanis, and today in Death Card Tactics I'm going to be reviewing all the rules from the Terminus Est Assault Force Renown. So the rules have been previewed, all the rules, let's say. So we can see what we can do with the deep striking Plague Marines, loads of Poxwalkers, and no Mortarion. Welcome in the Terminus Est, let's say. So today, the 22nd of March, so the rules for the Army of Renown, the Terminus Est Assault Force, have been shown and previewed in various forums from the Warzone Charadon. So we'll look again at the restrictions and benefits to make the army an Army of Renown, the specific traits, warlord traits and relics, for the Terminus Est Assault Force, the access to 4 unique stratagems, the Fester discipline with 6 powers, and some ideas for an army list using the Terminus Est Assault Force. I've seen also a lot of people ask the question if it's for matched play, and it looks like this is possible for matched play. As for tournaments, maybe the tournaments can decide if they want to include these rules or not. But it seems also it's not like only a crusade thing. It's more as a themed matched play rules here. So let's take out all the rules. Take a look at all the rules from the Warzone Charadon. So the rules for the Terminus Est Assault Force. First of all, there are some restrictions in order to be able to make the army being this army of renown. First of all, the biggest restriction: no vehicles in the army. So it's quite a severe restriction from the normal death card list that a lot of people tend to use quite a few demon engines. The other restriction that was added, let's say, clarified, is that there is no Mortarion cannot be part of the Terminus Est, so no room together with Typhus, let's say. All units in the army must be Death Guard, and if they have the Plague Company keyword, they must be from the Harbinger's Plague Company. So you don't have access to relics or contagions from the other Plague Companies. If the army includes Typhus, so it's not a must, but if it includes Typhus, he must be your warlord. And then he gains additionally the Harbingers of Death warlord trait from the Terminus Est Assault Force, on top of the Shamble Rot Harbinger's contagion that he has as a named character. He must have this warlord trait if he is nominated as the warlord. So the benefits to taking the assault force is that you get the access to this warlord trait, the relics and specific stratagems for this force. You also get access to a Fester discipline, the psychic powers there, and the psychers in the army can select either from the normal contagion discipline or the Fester discipline, and all units gain the Outbreak Assault ability. What the Outbreak Assault ability does is that bubonic Astartes units that are placed in strategic reserves can deep strike instead of arriving as normal strategic reserves from the battlefield edges. So I take this to mean that they have to follow the rules for strategic reserves when they are allowed to come in, for example, from turn 2. But instead of coming from the battlefield edge, they can deep strike, so they can arrive anywhere on the battlefield as long as they are 9-inch away from enemy models. But the problem is that every time it seems like we're getting something that sounds like a really cool rule, there is some something, a little bit of poison in let's say, together with that. So so they also specify that when you put the units in strategic reserves for this assault force, you pay extra command points. That's problematic, let's say. So so if you put with a normal, let's say, if you put between 1 and 9 power level in strategic reserves, normally you would pay 1 command point. Now with the Terminus Est, you need to pay 2, and etc. So from, if you put a big unit of Plague Marines, it has a power rating of 12. So normally you would cost 2 command points to have a big unit of Plague Marines in strategic reserves. But for the Terminus Est Assault Force, to be able to deep strike 1 Plague Marine unit, you would be paying 3. If you had 2, you would be paying 4, etc., depending on the power rating. But it's 1 more than normal strategic reserve, unfortunately. So at least the bubonic Astartes with this Outbreak Assault ability give us the possibility to deep strike units that normally cannot do so, like Plague Marines, Possessed, the Virion characters, and HQ characters that don't have teleport strike. But as I said, for example, 2 small units of Plague Marines or a bigger unit of Plague Marines would cost 3 command points to put in strategic reserves to be able to give us this cool deep striking ability of the Plague Marines. Then moving on and looking at the Warlord trait and the relics that we get access to when we make this Army of Renown. The Warlord trait is the Harbingers of Death. So this is an aura. So an enemy model with leadership 7 or less within 3 inches of the Warlord, the model's unit cannot use objective secure or similar abilities, and the model's unit cannot perform any action. So this could be situationally interesting. I wouldn't take this one specifically, but if you take Typhus, he gets this as an extra bonus and +1 attack to the Warlord where enemies are within this aura. So I would assume within 3 inches. Basically, the attacks when he's in engagement range, for example, if it's Typhus or another Warlord, he would get 1 more attacks, which is of course helpful. And again, if it's Typhus, you already have the Shamble Rod, you get this one on top. That's okay, I guess. And then if we look at the relics, we have 7 relics. So the first relic is called Filth Sensors for a Psyker model only, and this adds 6-inch range to the casting powers of the to cast powers. So this is interesting for a lot of powers, and I would also think for the Contagion discipline it would be nice to cast Smite further away or Curse of the Leper. I don't know if I don't think it specifies that it has to be from the Fester ability. So increasing the range of psychic powers could always come in handy. Then we have the Mark of the Terminus Est for from a character from the Terminus Est. So this gives +1 strength, and each time an attack is made against the bearer, the wound roll cannot be re-rolled, and once per battle, when you miss a save throw, you can auto-pass it. So this could be quite useful to, let's say, maybe save a multi-melt at short range or some very big throw, and then you can auto-save it if you fail the saving throw. Then they have the Vomix Virulent Blight. This is applicable for a Terminator Est character with Plague Weapon only. So you select one of the Plague Weapons that the character has during deployment, and when this weapon inflicts a wound on the enemy that is not saved, select a Contagion from the bearer, and until the end of the battle, the enemy unit is always considered to be in Contagion range of this ability. So it could be okay for the Shamble Rod, giving so you can roll for some mortal wounds, or you can give it -1 toughness permanently. But I think it's not super useful if we already are in close melee, and the most characters they have Plague Weapons for melee, let's say. The enemy would be in Contagion anyway, and probably, yeah, as I said, mostly it's for the -1 toughness Contagion, or it could be the Shamble Rod. And we don't have many ranged Plague Weapons to choose from, and all of those have typically short range if we wanted to be able to put Contagion for a unit that's far away, let's say. Then there is the Relic Canker. So this is a character with a plasma pistol only. It could be the Taliman, a Chaos Lord, or a Noxious Blightbringer, and it replaces the plasma pistol and becomes a strength 8, AP -4, damage 3 Plague Weapon pistol, but still it's a 1 pistol. So I think it's better than the plasma pistol, definitely, and a Plague Weapon, but it's still only 1 shot though. But it could be interesting if you have the extra command point to take some relic here. And then we have the Rot Grip that it was also pre-revealed. So this is a character with a Power Fist or a Plague Claw only, meaning the Lord of Virulence, Chaos Lord in Terminator Armor or Sorcerer. They can have a Power Fist. And then you can replace the Power Fist or the Plague Claw with a Rot Grip, which is the strength ×3, so basically a strength 12 weapon, AP -3, damage 2, Plague Weapon, and it doesn't come with a -1 to hit. So this is a good for a Lord of Virulence or Chaos Lord to do some extra melee damage, hitting on 2s and wounding nearly everything on a 2+ or 3+ with re-rolling 1s for Plague Weapon. So quite a good upgrade if you have some of these characters. And then there is the Reaper of Misery. So it's a character with Man Reaper or Plague Reaper. So basically that's the Lord of Contagion, and you can replace the Man Reaper or the Plague Reaper, and then it's Strength +2, AP -3, Damage 1 weapon, Plague weapon, and you get 2 hit rolls instead of 1. So unfortunately it's only, let's say, a Damage 1 weapon. It gives you extra attacks with a good AP, but it's not so good versus multi-wound targets, and you would need a bit higher strength than this. And normally I think you are better off keeping the Lord of Contagion with the Plague Reaper or even the Man Reaper, because you can do a little bit more damage for multi-wound targets. And then the last one is Raiment of Atrophy for a character. And this makes the character count the battle round as 1 higher for determining the range of contagions, and it's not cumulative with other such rules. For example, if we cast Flash Outbreak, we cannot count double the round for this model at least. So this is could be quite good for Lord of Contagion. From round 1 with this relic, he would have his contagion range counting as 6 inches, and from round 2, 9 inches, and then it will be 12 inches from there on. So this could be quite good to have a little bit more contagions from the get-go, and you don't need to cast a psychic power to get this increase. So looking very quickly on the Reaper of Misery and the Robbed Grip, I calculated the Robbed Grip in my previous video. Here we see the Reaper of Misery, the yellow line, the damage across various targets, not point corrected. And here we have the Lord of Contagion with the Plague Reaper, the blue line, and the brownish red line is the Man Reaper. And we can see that the Reaper of Misery is better versus 1 wound targets, and because you get double the attacks, let's say, and horde type enemies. But I would suggest sticking with the Plague Reaper if you're going with a lot of contagion, because you get better things, you get better value here against anti vehicles. And I think for the Terminus Est Assault Force, we will probably need more of an anti-vehicle weaponry, because we have a lot of infantry. Probably we don't have so many vehicles that can counter other vehicles, so we need some hard punching characters, I would assume. And the Rod Grip seems worth it. If you have a Chaos Lord or a Lord of Violence, you can get some more damage with the Rod Grip. The Plague, let's say the Plague Fist there, but I think for the Lord of Contagion, stick with the Plague Reaper. If we look at the 4 stratagems that we have access to, here we have some quite good ones, I think. So the first one is the Rotting Tide, so reminds of the green tide for the for the orcs, but it's quite costly, let's say 2 command points or 3 command points, and you can use this in the reinforcement step of the movement phase only once per battle. Here then it allows you to remove a Poxwalker unit that is below half strength, or select an already destroyed Poxwalker unit, and then you set up the unit at full strength, wholly within 6 inches from any battlefield edge except the opponent's battlefield edge, and it has to be more than 9 inches away from enemy models. If the unit at starting strength of 10 models or less, let's say 10 models, it will cost 2 CP, else 3 command points. So this is quite interesting stratagem to bring back Poxwalkers. You could have a unit destroyed, and then suddenly 20 Poxwalkers for 3 command points appear at potentially a strategically important spot on the map, helping you, contest that area, or you score your secondaries or whatever. But it could be quite interesting, although a bit costly. And then maybe the best one is the Unleash the Horde for 2 command points. You can use this in the move phase or the fight phase, and until the end of the turn, add 3 inch to all Poxwalkers, not only 1 unit, but all the Poxwalker units in the army, their movement characteristic. Also, they add 3 inch to their pile-in move. So this is great. You get 7 inch move for all Poxwalkers, and in addition, you can pile in further. So I wish we could have this for all Death Guard army. That would make that's interesting to make a a horde type army with Poxwalkers moving fast across the field together with Typhus, for example. So this is quite interesting. Then we have the Pestilential drop, which is also quite good for 2 command points. In the reinforcement step of move phase, you can select a unit arriving with the teleport deep strike ability or with his outbreak assault ability, and then as you select the contagion this unit has, until the end of the turn this contagion range is 12-inch, and it's not cumulative with anything else increasing contagion range. So this is a great way to place. Normally when you deep strike you have the enemies 9-inch away. With this stratagem you can put them directly in -1 toughness contagion range from the drop, and then for example the Death Shroud Terminators could benefit shooting their gauntlets or whatever shoots against those enemies, can benefit from the -1 toughness, which could be hard to get after deep striking. And then finally the Callous Disregard for 2 command points in the shooting phase. This was previewed. Here you select a Bubonic Astartes unit eligible to shoot, and until the end of the turn this unit can shoot at enemies engaged with Poxwalkers and Cultists. They will have -1 to hit, and everything they miss they hit the Poxwalkers or Cultists instead. Yeah, I think this is highly situational, and I think it's too expensive for its point cost. But if you have a couple of Poxwalkers holding a big unit of something and you need to shoot that unit, then you can shoot also the Poxwalkers and try to make damage on the opponents here. And you can probably use Talisman +1 to hit here. You can have rerolls to hit, so you hit more of the enemy than the Poxwalkers. Finally, looking at the psychic powers from the Fester Discipline. So we have six powers in the Fester Discipline, and most of them, they are quite expensive. They have a warp charge of 7, only one has a warp charge of 6. So if we start off, the first one is Gift of Infection, so 7 warp charge, and you select an enemy unit within 18 inches, and until your next psychic phase the unit gets -1 toughness, which is good, but it's not cumulative with Contagions of Nurgle. So I think this is probably better. I think I would prefer putting the units in Contagion with a normal Contagion thing, and could be situationally helpful to shoot a unit from afar, but I think not as useful because it's not cumulative with the contagions that we will be trying to get across the board with a lot of infantry units, I would assume. And then we have the Lung Rot, which was previewed. So again, warp charge 7. You can select an enemy unit within 18 inches, and until your next psychic phase, this unit cannot advance, and unit can only select enemies to charge within 6 inches, and they cannot re-roll any charge rolls. So I think this could be good against fast opponents that typically could advance very far, maybe bikes or something like this, or opponents that you want to restrict from charging enemy Terminators. And so for example, White Scars, they can advance and charge. Then you could hinder them from advancing and then only charging a very short distance. So this could be quite interesting depending on the army you're facing. And then one of the, I think, an interesting one here is the Pernicious Dose, 7 warp charge. And here you select a friendly unit within 6 inches of the Psyker, and until the next psychic phase, this unit can reroll the hit roll attacking with plague weapons, and this can be quite good. I think this is good for all the infantry units. Basically, all our infantry units have plague weapons, not Poxwalkers though, and especially in melee, where we have a multitude of plague weapons, and it's also good for especially, let's say, Power Fist or Big Cleavers or something that have -1 to hit, that we have good chances of re-rolling. And it's also good when we might not have the Lord to give us a Chaos Lord nearby to re-roll the ones. The only issue with this one is the range, 6 inches, But if we take the filth sensors, we can cast it to a friendly unit within 12 inches. So suddenly it becomes probably more useful here. So I think this could be quite interesting. The Noxious Discharge, Warp Charge 6. You select a visible enemy unit within 12 inches, and this unit just suffers 1 mortal wound, and all units within 3 inches of that unit suffer 1 mortal wound, excluding Nurgle units. So this is quite nice power versus castles to spread a few mortal wounds. If you have the field sensors, you could be spreading it to 18 to select a unit within 18 inches from the Psyker. So this could be quite interesting. If there is a big blob of infantry and supporting characters, you could do a few mortal wounds with this one. Then we have the Rotwind, Warp Charge 7. Here you select an enemy unit within 18 inches, and until your next psychic phase, the AP of weapons from this unit is reduced by 2 to a minimum AP 0. And I think this is quite useful and potentially good against loads of enemies, helping our infantry to make their saves, giving our Plague Marines the opportunity to save if they are in cover, and yeah, they are shot with bolter fires, or they are even with higher AP weapons, bringing them down by 2 gives us at least some chance to save. So this could be quite interesting as a defensive psychic power. And then the accelerated entropy, the final power here, Warp Charge 7. You have the target is a visible enemy model within 18 inches, and then both players roll 1d6 and add to their toughness characteristic this d6. If the own result is higher than the opponent's enemy model, the enemy unit that the model belongs to suffers 3 mortal wounds. If the result is double your opponent's, the enemy model's unit suffers d3 plus 3 mortal wounds. So I guess this one could be okay. I think it's probably best for the Demon Prince, who starts with a toughness 6 and could be a nice synergy with the Rotten Constitution, giving +1 toughness, so he starts with a toughness 7. And if we have the enemy being in within the contagion range, if it's a toughness 4, it goes down to toughness 3. So you have 7 versus 3, and if you have a okay dice roll and your opponent, yeah, then you could be doing d3 plus 3 mortal wounds. So it could be, I don't think probably is the best one, but it could be fun to use with a Demon Prince. But as I said, I think this reroll all to hit with plague weapons is probably the best one here. Yeah, Rotwind can help, Lungrong can help, accelerated entropy could be fun with a Demon Prince, especially. So some list ideas for a Terminus Est Assault Force. So looking here at the battalion, of course, Harbinger's Plague Company. I would assume here with the HQ, I have thought to bring, let's say, more characters here, more hard-hitting characters. So I would Typhus thematically being the warlord with the Harbingers of Death and Shamblerod. He could take, for example, Putrescent Vitality to have Poxwalkers, Miasma of Pestilence from the normal Contagion discipline. And then I have added here a Demon Prince with a sword, with the Rotten Constitution and the Accelerated Entropy for some fun here. And the sword and the Demon Prince can do some needed anti-vehicle damage. And then Malignant Playcaster with the Filth Sensors, Noxious Discharge, and Pernicious Dose to help rerolls and do some mortal wounds. And then for troops, a big unit of Plague Marines with where we have flails and cleavers. Cleavers will be especially important to provide some anti-vehicle, maybe some axe. Maybe I would add maybe Meltas here, as we are struggling to have a lot of anti-vehicle fighting power here. A small group of Plague Marines with 1 Blight Launcher, probably staying back. And then we have, in this case, 3 units of Poxwalkers, 2 20-man and 1 10-man. I didn't have enough to get 320 man. And then in the elites, I would bring the Talisman for the command points and +1 to hit. Foul Blight Spawn could always be helpful and adds some anti-vehicle capability as well. The Biologus Putrefier, and I'll come back to why I'm taking him here. And then maybe 2 5-man units of Blightlord Terminators with the Flail, the rest Axis, and then I would bring 1 Combi Melta for each squad. I think again the Melta, we need something anti-vehicle with this list. And then finally 2 units of Death Shroud. They can also do a lot of anti-vehicle when they can charge and come into melee combat. And in this example, we could have, for example, the Death Shroud in deep striking, maybe one of the Blight Lords in deep strike, and we can put the big group of Plague Marines together with the Biologus Putrefier for 3 command points. We can put them in strategic reserves, and then they can come in, hopefully make their charge. Biologus can help them launch grenades, etc. And hopefully we can make this group do a lot of damage also to vehicles thanks to the cleavers. In this army, Typhus could walk up with a bunch of Poxwalkers. We can have some Poxwalkers staying back to control objectives and spread sicknesses and things like that. Maybe we keep 1 Blightlord unit back to walk up with a Demon Prince. And I've added, as I said, some Melta guns for some needed anti-vehicle shooting, especially after Deep Strike. Otherwise, we have to come into melee to make, to do the job. So some summary and final thoughts. So we have had the reveal of basically that we have seen the previews and revealed rules from the Wars on Charadon for Death Guard. So we have this new kind of special detachment, special army for Harbinger's Death Guard list. It's the Terminus Est Assault Force, allowing us no vehicles or Mortarion. It gives us the possibility to deep strike bubonic Astartes that we put in reserve, but of course Games Workshop has made it that it costs extra command points to put them in reserve compared to a normal army. We have, by using this, we have access to the new Psychic Fester Discipline. I think the Pernicious Dose reroll all hits stand out, and the Rotwind reduces enemy unit firing AP by 2. We have some new relics. Rot Grip seems quite good improved Power Fist. We have the Filth Sensors to add range to some psychic powers that needed, especially from the Fester Discipline. And the Atrophy Relic could be increasing the round for contagion range. There are some okay relics here, but I think nothing fantastic, but they are quite okay. And then we have 4 new stratagems, and I think this Unleash the Horde for 2 command points that makes all Poxwalkers move 7 inches can be really good. And the Rotting Tide can bring back strategically used, can be bring a full unit of Poxwalkers. It's quite good but expensive, but it could turn the army, it could be a strategic advantage on the game. And the Pestilential Drop is also quite good to put enemy in contagion range immediately after deep striking. So I think with all these rules, it could probably make for some fun, a very infantry and Poxwalker heavy list, more on the casual side, because I think not having access to vehicles, of course, is hampering this army a lot. But at least we can have a bit fun with a lot of infantry, Poxwalkers, and loads of bodies on the table. And the biggest issue, I think, will probably be anti-vehicle capabilities. So in order to counteract that, I think we need to use psychic powers. We need to use the characters that are hard-hitting and boosting the damage of our infantry. We should probably look at Meltas for the deep striking Marines and the Blight Lords, using at least 1 combi Melta in the squads here, and then trying to get into melee with our Death Shroud, our characters, and Plague Marines with cleavers. So what do you think about the Terminus Est Assault Force and all the rules that we have now? Are you considering to try it? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please press like and subscribe to the channel, where I will be bringing you, as always, new and death card content. And if you want to support the efforts even more and help the channel more, please visit my Patreon page, patreon.com, General Yanis. And with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.